but he does contribute to the mythos surrounding Astonis by reinforcing his association with Persian wisdom and magical tradition. In Plutarch's writings, particularly in works such as Life of Numa, Isis, and Osiris, and on the obsolescence of oracles, he refers to the practices of the Persian Magi, sometimes evoking names like Zoroaster and Ostanis as exemplars of a deeply spiritual and ritualistic priesthood. Ostanis is often grounded together with legendary Eastern sages who were believed to possess ancient mystical insights into the working of nature and the cosmos. Plutarch generally treats such figures with a measure of philosophical curiosity. He does not present Ostanis in the negative tone that Pliny uses, nor does he outright endorse the magical arts. Instead, Plutarch places Astonis in a broader context of the philosophical and religious traditions that he believed form the backbone of ancient moral and metaphysical thought. Magi, in Plutarch's view, were not mere sorcerers, but spiritual guides and theologians who lived in accordance with divine order. The mention of Astonis in connection with the Persian Magi helped reinforce his status in the Greek-Roman imagination as an ancient font of arcane knowledge. Though Plutarch doesn't provide specific teachings or works attributed to Astonis, his inclusion of the name among respected mystical and priestly lineage lent credibility to the legendary status Astonis had already acquired in earlier texts. Plutarch's reference to Astonis are respectful and philosophical, casting him not as a charlatan, but as part of a sacred tradition of Eastern wisdom. He reinforces the image of Astonis as a symbolic representation of the mysteries and ancient knowledge associated with the Persian Magi, while leaving the specific content of that knowledge largely to implication. Astonis is deeply associated with the ancient alchemical tradition, and it's frequently cited as a master of the arcane, and is frequently cited as a master of the arcane sciences, particularly the transformative art of alchemy. His name became synonymous with esoteric knowledge, especially in relationship to the process of transmutation. In this tradition, transmutation was not limited to changing base metals into gold, but encompassed a broader understanding of the transformation of nature and the inner purification of the soul. The teachings attributed to Astonis describes transmutation as both a physical and spiritual act. The conversion of metals was seen as a mirror of the soul's journey towards perfection. Alchemical operations such as calcination, dissolution, and coagulation were interpreted symbolically, representing the stages of inner refinement. These processes were not only about crafting material substances, but also about aligning the practitioner with cosmic order and divine will. Writing under the name of Astonis include writings under the name of Astonis include instructions and allegories about elixirs, the Philosopher's Stone, and the secrets of longevity. These texts often integrate ritual practice, astrology, and natural philosophy, emphasizing a sacred harmony between the forces of heaven and earth. The alchemical vessel and its fire, for example, symbolizes the trial of the soul and the furnace of spiritual rebirth, where impurities were burned away to reveal a perfect essence, or a perfected essence. His teachings played a significant role in the development of Hermetic and early alchemical thought, influencing later practitioners across cultures. In these traditions, Astonis represents a lineage of wisdom in which the manipulation of matter is inseparable from moral and spiritual discipline. The goal of alchemy in this context is to achieve a union with the divine through the mastery of both physical and inner transformation. Astonis is closely linked with the early alchemical views of matter is not inert or lifeless, but infused with spiritual significance and potency. According to the teachings attributed to him, all material substances contain within them a divine essence or inner soul that reflects the cosmic order. This concept is rooted in the belief that nature itself is animated by a hidden intelligence, and that the visible world is a manifestation of unseen spiritual realities. In the spiritual dimensions of matter, as described in alchemical texts attributed to Astonis, transformation was more than a chemical change. It was a revelation of the divine qualities already present within a substance. Metals, stones, and natural elements were not just simply raw materials, but living embodiments of cosmic principles. For example, gold was not just a precious metal, it symbolized perfection, solar energy, and divine incorruptibility. Likewise, Mercury represented fluidity, transformation, and the link between the physical and the spiritual. Astonis taught that the alchemist's role was not to force change upon matter, but to assist it in fulfilling its latent potential. This process required not only technical knowledge, but also moral purity and spiritual insight. The practitioner, through rituals, prayers, and meditative focus, sought to align themselves with the divine order so that the material world would respond accordingly. Alchemy, in this view, was an act of sacred cooperation between the human and the divine, with matter acting as a medium through which spiritual truths could be realized. His teachings imply that every element of the natural world carries proper understanding and reverence. Fire, water, earth, and air each had their own spiritual correspondence and transformative powers. The process of distillation, for instance, could be seen as freeing the spirit from the body of a substance, while coagulation could symbolize the descent of the spirit into form. This theory presents a vision of the universe in which everything is interconnected and filled with purpose. To Astonis, the transformation of matter was not merely utilitarian but mystical. It reflected a sacred cosmology in which all things aspire to return to their original divine state. The alchemist, through disciplined work and spiritual devotion, played a role in this cosmic drama, helping matter reveal its inner light and aiding the soul's ascent through understanding and unity with the natural world. In the alchemical writings attributed to Astonis, the purification of metals was described not only as a technical process, but also as a sacred ritual that mirrored the refinement of the soul. While specific recipes and steps varied across different manuscripts, a consistent theme emerges that true transmutation required the metal to be stripped of its imperfections in order to reveal its inner perfected essence. This purification was often considered the first and most essential step in the path towards creating the Philosopher's Stone or achieving transmutation. Astonis's approach began with the selection of impure metals, typically lead or copper, which symbolized the base, unrefined state of both matter and the human condition. The first stage in the process was calcination, where the metal was exposed to intense heat in a furnace until it was reduced to ash or a fine white powder. This was seen as the burning away of corruption